Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the September 17th, 2013 meeting of Glendale City Council, being called to order at 6:03 p.m. May we have a roll call?
Council members: Friedman.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Montero.
Here.
Sinanian.
Here.
Mayor Weaver.
Here. Thank you. Our flag salute tonight will be led by Councilmember Friedman, the invocation by Matt Andrews, Associate Pastor of First Baptist Church of Glendale.
And as we renew our pledge to the flag tonight, let's keep in our thoughts the victims of the terrible tragedy in Washington, D.C. this week. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing for the invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty God, Father of all mercies, we, your unworthy servants, give you humble thanks for all your goodness and loving kindness to us and to all whom you have made. We bless you for your creation, preservation, and all the blessings of this life. But above all else, we thank you for your immeasurable love. And we pray, give us such an awareness of your mercies that with truly thankful hearts we may show forth your praise, not only with our lips but in our lives, by giving up ourselves for your service and by walking before you in holiness and righteousness all our days. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. May we have your report?
The agenda for the September 17, 2013 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council is posted on Thursday, September 12, 2013 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. What's next, please?
Next is presentation and appointments. At 3A is the agenda preview for the meetings of September 24, 2013.
Ms. Beers.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for September 24th, for the Glendale Housing Authority, we have one business agenda item, and that's Director of Community Development, Affordable Housing Portfolio, and Income Limits Update. That afternoon, also to commence at 3 p.m., special meeting, Glendale Successor Agency. We have one item, Director of Economic Development. This is regarding the Long-Range Property Management Plan. That evening, for the City Council meeting, at 6 p.m. We have a number of consent items, Director of Community Services and Parks and Public Works. This is regarding Pacific Park Artificial Turf Project, and this is located at 501 South Pacific Avenue, and this is in connection with spec number 3471. Director of Public Works and Community Services and Parks and General Manager of GWP, this is regarding Pacific Park Campus Wayfinding Project, and this is in connection with spec number 3510. Director of Community Development. This is regarding contract amendment for scanning of documents and records for the Community Development Department. Director of Community Services and Parks, landscape maintenance contract, and this is in connection with spec number 3505. City Attorney. This is regarding administration, billing, collections, and hearing officer services related to the administrative citation process. Under ordinances, we have ordinance amending the zoning code related to housing definitions and permitted use charts in accordance with items identified in the housing element and analysis of impediments to the fair housing choice programs. We have a few items under action items. Director of Community Services and Parks. This is an amendment to the existing lease agreement with New Singular Wireless. Secondly, we have Director of Library Arts and Culture. This is the Brand Library Art Center shelving project. Director of Community Services and Parks, this is the transfer of maintenance, operation, and management responsibility of Stengel Field to the Glendale Unified School District. City Manager, this is a resolution of support for the Franklin Elementary School grant program. And lastly, City Attorney, this is regarding the city's response to the civil grand jury report. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. What's next, please?
3B is nomination assignment to replace the unexpired term of resigned Design Review Board member Daniel Herman.
Thank you. And next, please.
Next is at 3C a proclamation designating the day of September 19, 2013 as a Can Wait No Texting While Driving Pledge Day.
Okay, who's coming forth? AT&T. I'll read this proclamation for you.
Thank you.
Whereas the City of Glendale holds the health and safety of its teenagers and adults as a chief concern, and whereas through iCanWait.com, Facebook, text to pledge, tweet to pledge, and events, more than 2 million people have committed to never text and drive. And whereas 98% of American commuters know sending a text or email while driving is not safe, whereas nearly 50% of commuters text while behind the wheel, and whereas more than 40% of commuters who text while driving reported the activity as being a habit, and whereas the driver that sends a text message while driving not only jeopardizes his or her safety, but also the safety of passengers, pedestrians, and other drivers. Now therefore, I, Dave Weaver, Mayor of the City of Glendale, do hereby proclaim September 19th, 2013 as It Can Wait, No Texting While Driving Pledge Day. And Mr. Najarian, since texting is driving and you're the expert on all such things, I'll let you take that.
I don't even have a Twitter account.
And may I say, 5 years ago, we could not have given such a proclamation. Nobody would even know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Changing times.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Could I just say a few words? Thank you for participating in the No Texting Day. It's September 19th, No Texting When Driving. This is a very significant problem. I know the city of Glendale takes this very seriously. You guys do so much for distracted driving, making people aware of it, so thank you very much. If I could just restate a couple things that are in the proclamation. In the past, the focus has really been on teens, making sure our kids don't text and drive. That's very important. We have to continue that. But more importantly are a couple things that the mayor read. The first is that 98% of us recognize the fact that texting when driving is bad, but 50% of us still do it, and 40% of us say it's a habit. So somehow we have to be able to break this habit and convince people that it's the wrong thing to do. One way of doing that is to make people more aware of it. If people can go to itcanwait.com, you can take a pledge there. There's also a very easy way to add it onto your Facebook, your Twitter account, Tumblr, whatever social media. It's about getting the message out. So thank you very much for the proclamation and for helping getting the word out. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
What is next, please?
Next is City Council and staff comments.
Ms. Friedman.
Couple comments. First, I wanted to wish a bon voyage to Bob Doyle, who was the city's deputy fire chief, deputy chief fire chief. He was, for me, besides Harold Scoggins, really the face of the fire department. There were many, many times where he sat in this room and I would look out and see him. He was a very active member of our fire department, very valued, very well known to the community. He's retired, moved on to bigger and better things, and I'm sure that the rest of the council joins me in wishing him well in his future endeavors. Secondly, I attended last weekend a fundraiser called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner for Glendale Healthy Kids. This, of course, is a wonderful community organization that provides low-cost medical and dental care to children who are underinsured in our community. I was at one of the many events that were held around town. It was very well attended. I hope that they all were. I think there's more events this weekend. There may still be time to buy tickets on Glendale Healthy Kids website. The thing that's wonderful about this event is that community members host these little cocktail parties or dinner parties in their homes. So it's not just the community attending a fundraiser, it's also the community hosting fundraisers in their own home. So I want to congratulate and thank all of the community members who attended, and particularly those who hosted the events. Tonight is the grand opening of our new Nordstrom's mall, department store here in Glendale. It's very exciting. We had an old Nordstrom's. Now we're going to have a brand spanking new Nordstrom's, which will be a step above in terms of the merchandising of the old Nordstrom's. Tonight's a fundraiser. You probably still can buy tickets for that too if you wish. I think it starts at 7 o'clock. But I believe that the store will be open to the general public this weekend. And I think I may have read that on Friday when they open, they're going to be having sort of specials around the store, and it will also be kind of a party. Don't quote me on that. I believe I saw that in their catalog. But of course, we welcome Nordstrom's with their new store and wish them all the best. I just wanted to let everyone know that next Tuesday, Mr. Quintero and I are going to be at the airport conference in San Jose representing you as the sitting on the commission for the Bob Hope Airport in Burbank. So we won't be here, but we will be on official city business. And lastly, I would like to ask staff, with the consent of my colleagues, to bring back a report changing the way that we allow developers to do environmental impact reports. Right now, developers are able to go out and hire whoever they want to do their EIR, and if people oppose that, there's always the thought that, well, of course they came back saying there's no impacts. Of course they said that building's not historic. Of course they said there's no traffic, because they were hired and paid for by the developer. I've been told that other cities don't do it that way, that instead the cities hire the EIR, hire the consultants for the EIR. The cities make sure that it's a more neutral party. They take an administrative fee as well, so it covers the cost of the city's administration, but that you end up in the end with a process that appears to be fairer, that there's less chance of anybody challenging the EIR by saying that it's being paid for only by a developer, because it's the city that's actually, even though the developer's passing the money through, it's the city that hires the consultant and administers that EIR. So I know that there are pros and cons to this approach. With the consent of my colleagues, I would like to ask staff to bring back a report giving us some options.
I'll second that approach.
Okay, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, and I would like to have staff agendize a discussion report on changing oral communications to 3 minutes. Okay? We are the only city in the state of California that allows 5 minutes and meet every week. Only city. We will have a discussion. Sorry, Mr. Mohill, you're not supposed to speak from the audience. Artie, you have something?
Mayor.
To say? Oh, yes.
Thank you. I would like support to be placed on the agenda, a modification to our ethics ordinance and our conflicts of interest ordinance to include real estate professionals, including brokers and salesmen, for any projects that come before the council. Many times the successful obtaining of a commission by those real estate professionals is entirely contingent on council approving plans for a particular project or entitlement. So I'd like to bring that up for discussion for possible amendment.
And I was going to say, well, both Mr. Weaver's request and your request, Councilmember Najarian, we need seconds for those. I didn't hear what for.
Somebody second mine?
I'll second Mr. Weaver's.
And I'll second Mr. Najarian's, if he will allow at the same time for us to have a discussion about ways of making it easier for us to keep track of, sometimes we only get notice of these projects on Friday. We have to come in on Tuesday. It's not enough time for us always to go through the agenda, pull those names out, try to compare them to our campaign contributions. For me, I don't feel comfortable. It's not working. So I know that these projects are going through the pipeline much further in advance. I would like there to be a way for us to give our contributions to staff for them to look through. Some way this has to be something a little bit more wieldy. Right now, I'm very uncomfortable. It would be very easy for someone to slip past, given that it's Friday and Tuesday. There's a long list of contributors. There's a very long staff report. The names are buried in the staff reports. So maybe we can talk about some ways of streamlining this process, staff helping us keep track. If we give you our contributors, maybe you can look for us, something like that, to make it to where something doesn't inadvertently slip past us.
If it's okay by council, I'd probably include those in one report, as well as some discussion of, this was our first election with one of the provisions being applicable, so it'd probably be a good time to do a look back and see how it went and see what the comments might be with respect to how it applied. So I'd include all of them.
I would support that.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Quintero.
I also want to thank some of the Glendale Healthy Kid providers, Dr. Roberto and Kathleen Zarate, who had a tremendous fundraiser, super well attended. The President of Glendale Memorial, numerous doctors. There was live flamenco entertainment, and we had Spanish hams, cheese, olives, paella, and I kept inquiring in terms of the cholesterol and all of the other. Anyway, everyone had a great time. I don't know how healthy the dinner was, but it was wonderful, very well attended, and Glendale Healthy Kids throughout the years, I think they're approaching their 20th anniversary. They've done a great job, and they spoke about specific families and children that they've helped throughout the years, and it's just a great organization.
Thank you. Mr. Kasakian, you have an announcement?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'd like to ask the Council this evening to adjourn the Council meeting in the memory of someone very special to the entire Glendale Unified School District family, but truth be told, to many individuals who've gone through at least two of the public schools here in the city. We had the unfortunate news of hearing of the loss of Mary Barbara Malone. Mrs. Malone, as she was known to many of us, had worked at Glendale High School while I was there, and if I may, I'll just read some of the highlights from her bio. She was born on June 26, 1946, and Barbara Malone, as she was known, worked for Glendale Unified School District for 39 years. First as textbooks and media aide, and then as administrative secretary in the business office. In 1988, she was promoted to senior administrative secretary at Glendale High School and worked under principals Harvey and later Gibson. In 1997, she transferred to Clark Magnet, where she worked with Doug Dahl and worked up until the day before she finally succumbed to cancer on September 12, 2013. She battled cancer for over 6 years, but never asked why me. She just dealt with it. She continued to work all this time. Her work meant everything to her, and she would always talk about the school and what was going on with anyone who would listen about the students and sports and anything else. She is survived by her husband, John, and her daughter, Carol, and her family, her two wonderful grandsons, Andrew and Daniel, who meant the world to her. And here's an interesting little point about her history. She met her husband when they were only freshmen in high school. They were inseparable, never dated anyone else, and they were married for 48 years. And so we often praise the folks up at the top of the food chain when it comes to bragging about how wonderful our schools are, Mr. Mayor and Council. And we do have wonderful schools here in Glendale because our teachers and administrators do wonderful work, but we tend to forget that there are the Barbara Malones in this world who make everything run on time, efficiently, care about each student like they are one of her own family. I can't tell you the number of times that I walked into my alma mater at Glendale High or visited Clark and look forward to seeing her stern but also kind face. She was a no-nonsense person. She ran a tight ship, but not with an iron fist, but with a heart of gold. So on behalf of the entire Dynamiter and Panther families of Glendale High School and Clark, we express our heartfelt condolences to the family. Anyone wishing to attend the services, which are this Thursday, they should contact Clark High School, and I'm certain they'll be happy to provide that information to anyone interested in paying their last respects. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll adjourn in her memory. Okay, what is next, please?
Next is consent item, including minutes following a routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before a motion is proposed.
Mr. Najarian.
I'd like to pull 5D, like David, please.
I'll move the remainder of the consent calendar.
Second?
A roll call on any items.
Council members Friedman,
Yes?
Najarian,
Yes.
Montero,
Yes.
Sinanian,
Yes.
Mayor Weaver.
All right. Please read 5D into the record.
5D is Director of Public Works regarding contract for Beeline operational analysis. D1 is motion authorizing execution of a professional services agreement with Dan Boyle and Associates, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $148,100.
Mr. Najarian.
Thank you. Mr. Zern, I don't have any personal working knowledge with the Dan Boyle firm. However, I did receive an email from a concerned citizen indicating that he had followed the history of Boyle with the city, was critical of the last report that the Boyle firm gave to council, claiming that some of the suggestions were very extreme and non-workable, and expressed surprise at the fact that the Boyle firm had been picked again. Are you familiar with any of those issues from the past report which would otherwise make them not the prime choice for this contract?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Nazarian, no. As you recall, you as a council had to make some very, very tough decisions regarding the Beeline, both in route restructuring and consolidation, fare increases, and internal program reduction. And Dan Boyle provided us what I thought was very solid information in which to make those decisions. They're not easy decisions. They weren't perfect decisions. We didn't please everybody. But I'm very confident in Mr. Boyle and his firm's ability. They went through a very competitive process and came out on top. Again, I'm assuming this person is a writer, and so we may not have been able to please every writer in the system, but we did the best we could for the overall system in the city. And Mr. Boyle will take a look at those decisions that we made 5 years ago, and we'll see how well those turned out and if there's other options that we may have for the future. And maybe even with our finances turning around, the potential for some expansion, because I know there's interest on from some members of the council in expanding the service. But those things will all come out in his report. But I'm personally confident and stand behind the recommendation.
And to put it in context, this is a contract for a operational analysis, a line-by-line analysis, ridership, and demographics.
That's correct.
And so forth.
Correct.
If you're satisfied, I'm satisfied.
Yeah, I also read the emails. So one of the questions or one of the assertions was that, in fact, a line that was heavily used was cut back or somehow reduced. Is that a fact? Or?
There was, Mr. Quintero. We, as you recall, what the motivation for this was we have a finite source of revenue from Prop A and C and Measure R. It's sales tax based, and we had a reduction, and we had maximized our service. We had simply spent every dime that we received in that to maximize our service. So we needed to peel back on that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say, we went in and we made hard decisions. Some of the routes, we called them underperforming, but they were popular with a number of riders. It just, those were the ones that had the lower ridership versus others. It wasn't like there was 2 people on the bus, all day or something like that. So, again, I just make the comment, we couldn't please everybody, but there were some portions of it that we used either Metro bus service that could pick that up, our contract with La Cañada to see if they were interested in picking some of that up. But there were people that were unhappy with some of the reductions. You may recall, I think there was discussion on the Honolulu in the northwest area route. But, again, they were very hard decisions that you had to make.
I was going to say, I remember also that there were cases where some of the routes that were reduced were popular routes, but the reason we did it was because there were Metro buses in the same route, which was redundant. And what was happening was because we were cheaper, our buses were overcrowded and Metro was underperforming.
Correct.
So it wasn't that there wasn't transit available, it's that we felt that we could shift our buses to areas that were more underserved, and we still had Metro in those other lines.
That's correct. Metro picked up but those. And we're going to see in this next analysis how that worked out. And because our fares went up, as you know, so we weren't the 25 cents a ride. So we'll be able to see how that worked out.
Okay, is
I'll
there
move the item if there's no other comments.
Second.
roll call?
Council members: Friedman,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Sinanian,
Yes.
Mayor Weaver.
All right, next, please.
Item 6 is oral communication. However, this is the 3-minute portion reserved for community event announcements. We will have the full 5-minute portion at the conclusion of all agendized city business.
First speaker, Kimberly Rhodes.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Rhodes. I'm the Executive Director for the Family Promise of East San Fernando Valley. We are a 4 to 8 week back-to-work program for homeless families with children that are experiencing homelessness for the first time. While in our program, we assist families with job development and overnight sheltering. Family Promise is part of an interfaith network that partners with over 24 congregations that provide care for our families. Homeless families now comprise nearly 40% of the homeless population and has become the fastest growing segment of homelessness. At any given time, there are an estimated 11,000 homeless children in the San Fernando Valley. Family Promise stands firm to continue to meet this growing need in our community, but we can only do it with community support. Family Promise is a cost-effective program. Because we utilize existing community resources, we are able to deliver $3 in goods and services for every $1 we receive. We are supported in part through donations and fundraisers, and this brings me to why I'm here today. I would like to invite everyone to help Family Promise of East San Fernando Valley in meeting our goal of assisting homeless families by attending our Boxcar City fundraising event happening the first weekend in October. Please enjoy our public service announcement and visit our website at www.familypromiseesfv.org for more information.
East San Fernando Valley presents the 5th annual Boxcar City Fundraiser, Saturday, October 5th from 3 p.m. to 8 a.m., Sunday, October 6th, in the Glendale Church of Christ parking lot located at 2021 West Glen Oaks Boulevard. Boxcar shines a spotlight on the plight of homeless families in our community. Residents pay a participation fee of $15 per person or $10 per person for groups of 10 or more to sleep overnight in decorated boxes or tents. For the first time this year, Boxcar City participants will have the opportunity to sleep in their cars as many families do to survive. Cost $50 per car. Prizes will be awarded for the most creatively decorated dwellings. Join us for a battle of the bands, food, and fun. For more information, please visit our website or call 747-333-6082. The 2013 Family Promise Boxcar City Fundraiser. Together, we can end homelessness, one family at a time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Brej Mardian.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, and the community. First, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Brej Mardian. I'm one of the Board of Directors of the Glendale Historical Society. I'm here today on behalf of the Glendale Historical Society and the Board of the Directors to announce our wonderful annual home tour, which is our largest event. The Glendale Historical Society's 2013 home tour this year is themed Classic Casa Verduga and will showcase 5 distinctive homes built in 1907 through 1917. The homes are located in one of the Glendale's earliest and most architecturally diverse neighborhoods of Casa Verdugo. The home tour will be held Sunday, September 29th from 11 to 4 p.m. and the homes are located in the Casa Verdugo neighborhood. Tickets may be purchased online at www.glendalehistorical.org or call 818-242-7447 or at the Glendale Arts Box Office, Americana at Brand Concierge Desk. And on the day of the tour, they can be purchased at the Historical Alex Theater, 216 North Brand Boulevard, starting 10:30 a.m. The tickets are $22 each for Glendale Historical Society members and $32 for the general public until September 24th, and $27 for members and $37 for non-members after September 24th and the day of the tour. At the tour day, we will also have the Border Grill truck to serve lunch throughout the event. And prior to our event this year, we're having another program this Thursday, the 19th, which is a presentation about Casa Verdugo, Glendale's Red Car suburb. This is on Thursday, September 19, 7 through 8:30 p.m. It's free for public, and it's at the First Church Christ Scientist, 1320 North Brand Boulevard, Glendale. Leading up to our home tour, the Glendale Historical Society will host the Casa Verdugo Red Car suburb, a talk and slideshow on the historic neighborhood and the Pacific Electric Red Car. We have special speakers, preservation architect John Lacascio and archivist Paul Ayres. And Paul Ayres does a wonderful job on the red cars. We encourage everyone to come to that lecture. Again, I like to have the community support and attend our great event, and we appreciate the community's support and keep the city's heritage alive and what Glendale history is all about. And thank you very much.
Well, I didn't eat there, but I rode on the red cars. Too bad the red cars, I rode on them. Too bad buses came in, they went away. Okay, last speaker, Alfred Isaiah. Saying it wrong, sorry. Say your name for the record.
Alfred Isayan.
Okay.
So Mayor Weaver and City Council and staff, audience. My name is Alfred Isayan. I am a member of the Green Armenia group here in Glendale. Joining me is Caroline Ismailian. We have our first walkathon fundraiser this Sunday at 1 o'clock. That will begin from the Glendale City Hall right here, all the way up to Verdugo Park. Our group stands for promotion and protection and preservation of the Armenian environment. A lot of people from Glendale visit Armenia on an annual basis. And over the last few years, over the last 10 years, there has been massive mining going on, open pit mining in pristine forests of Armenia. And we would like to bring awareness to the community that we would like more responsible economic development in Armenia, and such as ecotourism, such as small industry, and a lot of us have been involved in, actually beginning some of these things in these affected areas. Participation fee is about $20. Everybody gets a T-shirt, Green Armenia T-shirt, and the walk ends at the Verdugo Park, where there's going to be a celebration for the Armenian Independence Day, and we would love to invite everybody to join us. It will be a fun walk, and we want to again promote. As Glendale is such a beautiful green city, we would like to promote the same practices back in Armenia. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Good luck. I think I have no more cards. Next, please.
Next item on the agenda under adoption of ordinances, 7A is ordinance amending various sections of the zoning code related to the creation of a medical service zone. This was offered on September 10th, 2013 by Councilmember Quintero.
This and the following item we've covered is to create an overlay zone around Adventist Hospital for the ease future development. Is that about it, Mr. Cho?
Yes, sir. Okay, if there's no comments, I'll make the motion. I've introduced the ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the word, there's a real it wasn't even a typo. There was just a real small change. The word use was underlined inappropriately in page 58 and 59, so I just asked that you make the motion with the amendment putting it back.
I saw that.
Right.
Page 58. Right.
Is there a second?
Yeah, with that correction.
Second?
Roll call.
Council members: Friedman,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Sinanian,
Yes.
Mayor Weaver.
Aye. Next is the zoning map.
7B is ordinance amending zoning map to include the medical services MS zone, also introduced on September 10, 2013 by Councilmember Quintero.
Okay, I will move 7B.
Second?
Roll call.
Council members: Friedman,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Sinanian,
Yes.
Mayor Weaver.
Aye. Next, please.
Under action items, 8A is Director of Human Resources regarding Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Glendale City Employees Association. A1 is a resolution approving the adopting the MOU commencing on July 1st, 2013 and ending on June 30th, 2014. At A2 is a resolution providing for the establishment of classification titles and compensation for the employees of the City of Glendale, covered by the Glendale City Employees Association Memorandum of Understanding, including confidential and hourly classifications.
Thank you, Mr. Cho.
Yes, sir. In these trying economic times, we have done one-year agreements, MOUs, with all of our groups, and actually had to unilaterally implement on one of them in this current year. At this point in time, we are bringing you the final MOU for your consideration, though council has been involved in those negotiations through the meet and confer process as outlined under state law. We have basically the MOU that with GCEA, our General Employees Group, our largest group, that features the restoration of a 1.5% pay reduction that was part of a unilateral implementation on this particular group several years ago. The city would restore that 1.5% only to have those employees then turn around and utilize it in cost sharing for offsetting city pension costs. Thereby, again, holding up Glendale as actually a community in the state of California that probably pays one of the highest amounts, if not the highest amount, having its employees pay the highest cost of the share of their own employment. So if you have any specific questions about the terms of the MOU, our HR Director, Mr. Doyle, can answer those, and we'd be happy to address those issues, sir.
Well, we've been very fortunate in having the city employees continue to work with us with the understanding it's tough times still. there's a new norm, as you have said, in the city. And we appreciate the employees we have and their understanding. Is that fair to say, Mr. Doyle?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, yes, our employees have been very, very cooperative over the years since we've entered into the recession. And as Mr. Ochoa said, the prime area of this one-year MOU is that restoration of the 1.5% pay cut that was imposed back in 2010. And as he indicated further, this is being made up for or offset by an increased contribution to their CalPERS retirement. And this actually brings the employee contribution up to a total of 11%, which, again, I would hazard to find any city that has its employees contributing that much towards their retirement anywhere.
I think that's an important point. 11.4% of their money going in. You wouldn't happen to know how much city employees in Los Angeles pay, would you?
Oh, I'm sorry, I do not.
I think it's about zero, isn't it?
Could be. We pay, our employees pay 8% of the employee share and then an additional 3% of the employer share. And this is going up from the current 9.5%.
I think LA's employees pay for employer's share. Can't remember the details, but it's great that the GCA has done that. Is there a motion to adopt this?
I will move.
A quick comment.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks. Good. My comment is that it's been a tough couple of years for our employees. They've had pay reductions. They've increased their share that they pay towards their retirement. They continue to work diligently for the people of Glendale. And I just want them to know that even though labor negotiations are always difficult, you can sit down, thanks. They're always difficult, they're always unpleasant, but I think I speak for the whole council when I say that we very much value all of our employees. We want only to have good relationships with them. I think we've done that. I think for the most part, our employees have been extremely cooperative, extremely understanding of the financial situation of the city, and really acted as our partners. And certainly this year, be able to have an easy, quick negotiation process and to be able to pass this MOU is kind of where I think we had all hoped to be. And so I just want to thank the employees. Thanks for being our partners throughout the past couple of years.
I would like to thank Michael for reminding me I have a card. Mike Mohill, 2 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Weaver. This section of this agenda item used to be 3 minutes, but since Mr. Mayor has become the new mayor, it's now down to 2 minutes, and now he wants oral communication down to 3 minutes. This is what you call a dictator in training. Ladies and gentlemen, have you all received your GWP electric bill for the summer? If it's been going up, thank the re-election of Councilman Freeman and re-election of Mr. Najarian and Mr. Weaver. They've all approved our electric rate increases.
What does this have to do with
this
the GCA?
Has to do. Hold on. Now go ahead and show my PowerPoint.
Stop the time. What does this have to do with the GCA contract?
It doesn't. I assume he's getting to the point, but
I'm transitioning to that
Get to the point quickly.
Well, quit leading into it with this repetition that you've set up here every single week for 5, 6, 7 years. We don't need that. Get to the subject.
Ladies and gentlemen in the viewing audience, it seems that our mayor doesn't want to listen to a critic.
I'm listening
Mr. Mayor,
to the
Mr.
contract.
Mayor, Mr. Mayor,
This
I would just let him
has nothing to do
speak.
with the contract.
Mr. Mayor, this definitely has something to do with the contract. This is the Glendale pension schedule. Look, ladies and gentlemen in the viewing audience. First column says last year's salary, years of service, followed by the benefit factor, then the percentage of last year's salary, and then the pensions. The very bottom shows Glendale City employees. This is an example of a $100,000 person with 30 years of service will be receiving a pension for life at age 50 or 55 for $60,000. A manager would be receiving 75% of that $100,000. That would be 70, and that's for life. And these people are living 25 and 30 years beyond the age 50 or 55, and the majority of people are living on Social Security. Income Social Security average is less than $15,000, Mr. Mayor. And if you are a Bill Gates, the most you can get pension of your Social Security is $30,000.
This has nothing to do with the contract that we are voting on.
Everything to do with the contract.
No, it does
because
not.
I like to see somebody.
Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Well,
Please.
My time already.
Tell me
please
why
hold it.
I'm not right.
He's speaking on a subject, retirement benefits are related to employee contracts.
Oh, this is so far-reaching, Mr. City Attorney. I know what I'm voting on.
I'd like to know who on this council tonight will vote against this ordinance.
Sit down and you'll
Who
find
will
out.
speak for the people and vote no? The people of Glendale want to hear you. Thank you. My name is Mike Mohill.
I know. Everybody in the world knows. Okay. Is there a motion? Somebody make one?
8A1.
Second.
Can I do both? 1 and 2?
Roll call.
I'll move 8A1 and 2.
Roll call. If there's a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Council members: Friedman,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Nanyan,
Yes.
Mayor Weaver.
Aye. There's your answer, Mr. Mohill. 5. Come back next year. Hey, what is next?
Next, under reports, we have Information Services Quality of Life Applications at 10A.
Thank you, Mr. Ochoa.
Yes, sir. Very briefly, something that had come up by council's direction, actually council's vision in the past, is using technology to enhance the ability to communicate with our residents. Our new CIO, Mr. Ganley, will give you an overview of how one of these applications for the increasingly prolific existence of mobile devices and their usage is doing just that in enhancing that quality of life. So, Mr. Ganley?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. I'm here with Damian Patrick, the Information Services Project Manager, and Hago Pavsepian, our Applications Administrator, to talk about some of the things that we're producing for the public, for our constituents, mobile applications and web applications. It's really a pleasure to be here tonight. A lot of times what we do in the Information Services Department is in the background, complex technology projects, indirectly assisting the other departments in making service better for our constituents, but it's a little more uncommon for us to be able to do something with a direct public impact. And so it's, like I said, it's enjoyable to be here tonight to talk about some of those applications. So tonight we're going to talk about the Library Arts and Culture mobile app, the My Glendale mobile app, and a couple of interactive web maps that we've talked about, one before, wildlife sightings, and a new one that we're launching currently called Park Compass. So the first app, the Library Arts and Culture mobile app, the library's done a great job with this application. And you can see there a couple of pictures. It's available on any mobile device from anywhere in the world. You can search the library's catalog. You can renew books that you have checked out. You can check out ebooks or audiobooks, download them directly to the mobile device, and start reading or listening immediately, which I think is terrific. One of the things that most people probably skip over, so I want to point out tonight, more ebooks and online databases, that will take you to a whole list of online databases that you can use with your library card. I personally use this and think it's terrific. So in the palm of my hand, I have access to almost any newspaper or magazine ever published. And I think that's a terrific technology. You can look at the library locations. It will map those locations for you, tell you which ones are closest to where all of our library branches are. And then, of course, images, videos, Facebook, and other social media. So a really terrific mobile app. I would encourage everyone with a mobile phone to search for Glendale Public Library and install this application. The next app is going to be covered by Damian Patrick.
Yes, the My Glendale app is something that hopefully you guys have seen before, and it has been out for a while, but we wanted to bring sort of a reminder to the residents about what it can do. Really, that app is used to report quality of life items such as illegal dumping, potholes in the streets and things like that, where a resident doesn't have to necessarily call in to get those things addressed. Once they take a picture with their phone, they can submit it through the application, and it'll actually pinpoint the location on a map for them. So that's actually a really good benefit to the residents, because they don't necessarily have to look and find a phone number to call in. So that's one that certainly we've been using and been very pleased with over the course of the last couple of years.
Thank you, Damien. The wildlife tracking application, we've been before council a couple of months ago talking about this application. It is the first of its kind, and we're the only city providing such an application that we know of. So we've had about 84 submissions so far since this application's been live. It'll keep sightings online for 1 week. So you can see right now in the upper left corner there, that's a coyote sighting submission. This helps the constituents monitor this and share that information with city staff so we can provide better service in dealing with this. It's transparent, it's open. This is a terrific application, and we're very proud of it. I want to call out Chad March, part of our GIS team. He could not be here tonight. Chad worked very closely with Damien in the creation of this application, and did a great job. Our next application that we're just now launching, Damien will cover.
The Park Compass, as Mr. Ganley mentioned, is brand new. We're just releasing it today for this meeting. Basically what it is it is a map including all of the parks in the city. And what the user can do, what the resident can do is highlight over a park and click on it, and it will pull up any amenities that park has. If it has a baseball diamond, if it has barbecue pits, if it has meeting facilities, any sort of amenities available at that park, this map will bring up. It also has pictures that you can scroll through of each park, and anyone that's new to Glendale or just coming to Glendale for the day, they can actually get turn-by-turn directions through this map. So it's another one we're very proud of. It's replacing sort of a paper map that was handed out at the different facilities, so we think it's a definite step up in terms of using the technology that's available to us. And again, it's something we're very proud of, and we're excited to release it today.
And I agree, tremendous improvement over the paper-based and website picture of a map with dots on it. This is interactive and really shows off the city's great facilities in a very visual and interactive way. That's the last of our presentation for tonight, but we wanted to talk about an exciting project that we are working on now, and we'll be back before you very soon to demonstrate that, and that's the re-envisioned city website. So Damien's working with a team from every department across the city on a new website design, easier to find content, easier to use. I think it'll be visually stunning, and I think we'll all be very excited and proud when that launches later this year. Any questions about any of these applications?
I have a question on the Glendale Public Library app. Okay, so let's say I go to, so first you have to download it from either the App Store, if you have an Apple, or if you have BlackBerry, there's a BlackBerry store or something on there. And let's say I wanted to get a book. Dan Brown, the new Dan Brown book, or an older Dan Brown, whichever. So I would go to eBooks, click on that, and look at it in the index. And is there any charge to read that book or to download that book?
No, there's no charge, and thank you for asking. There's no charge for any of these applications or use of them. So you could go, you would have 3 different choices if you wanted to get the Dan Brown book or most any other book. You could search the catalog and see if the actual paper book is available, and if so, you could put a request in for that book. Unfortunately, you'll still have to go pick it up, but it'll be on hold for you once you get to the library, and you could get locations of the library from this app as well. Or, as you mentioned, you would have the choice of an e-book or an audio book, which you could check out, download straight to your device, and start reading or listening to.
And is there a waiting list for those? I mean, a popular book, let's say, do you have a limited number of downloads that can be done, so you may have to wait?
Yes, there is. So sometimes not all books are available in all formats, and of course popular books are going to be checked out, so there might be a wait. And that's where what you could do on here is put your request in so that you would be notified when that book was available.
And then you have a license to read that book for a certain period of time. Does it then go back to the Ethernet at the expiration, or do you have that book forever? How does that work?
It's very much a loan, like any paper-based library book. So you would have it for that same period of time, could potentially renew it, but eventually you would electronically turn that in, which in that case means it would disappear.
So you don't have to worry about an overdue library book because the library will take it back electronically.
They will take it back. No overdue fees.
How about magazines? You mentioned magazines. It works the same way, or are they more readily available?
That's a little bit different and a personal favorite of mine, and it would be in the online databases. And this is also available from a computer, so it's not just a mobile device. All of these are online from any computer as well. I like to use it for consumer reports personally, so I'll go into the databases and I'll do a search of magazines for consumer reports for a new barbecue, my most recent purchase, and get the consumer reports ratings and reviews all instantaneously, all online. It's a terrific feature.
I actually just subscribe, or renewed my subscription to Consumer Reports, so I'm paying for your research.
It's a terrific service that the library is
Very
providing.
interesting, yeah. Well, it's a great organization. I don't mind paying, but that's how it works. Any kind of investment magazine or whatever it is, you can get it through the library and online.
If the library has it.
Yes, sir. Most, not all, but most.
Yeah.
And Mr. Friedman?
I read a lot of books online. I recommend it highly. But this is, I don't know if it's a comment or a question, and I've asked this of Cindy Cleary. It's probably more her purview. I still don't quite understand why Glendale Library is spending money on ebooks when any Glendale resident can get a library card from the City of LA library system. And I hate to say it, but they have 10 times more books than we do. I hate to say it again, but I've stopped looking at the Glendale Library website because they have almost nothing I ever am looking for, whereas LA has a lot of what I'm looking for. So if we have a redundant system where people can access the other system, why isn't it, and this is more rhetorical, maybe for a city manager, why is it not a waste of resources for us to invest in buying the same ebooks that people can check out through the LA library system? Why don't we team up with them so that we can add additional books, so that through the Glendale Library people can access the LA system instead of having to get the library card from there? Not that it's a huge deal, but you do have to go there to get a library card. They will give it to you as a Glendale resident. If we teamed up with them, paid them probably a fraction of what we're paying, it seems like we could just expand the universe of books that are available. I would bet that almost every book that you can check out from the Glendale Library ebook system, you can check out from LA. So why not just add additional titles for LA or add to their system? It just seems like it could save us money and do everyone a service.
We have something similar with the City of Pasadena, Internet Library Loan, and to the extent that we would incorporate LA City, I'd have to defer to Ms. Cleary and have her come back and answer that question.
I don't know if I'm just looking for the wrong books, but I have stopped looking at the Glendale website. They almost never have anything I'm looking for. So I just think that we should explore the Glendale Pasadena system teaming up with LA and trying to just add to the titles that are available to the general public. I worry that we're spending money on a redundant system that maybe people, as they start doing this more and more, just aren't going to utilize because they can go next door, go to Atwater, get a library card, and have a much larger universe of books that they can look at.
We will get you that answer.
Okay, thank you.
And I would echo Mr. Ochoa's comment. We are working closely with the City of Pasadena. I would also mention there is a multiple library loan system, so you can go to the City of Glendale's library and get access to virtually any book at any library.
Not e-books.
E-books are a little bit different.
I'm just talking about e-books. I think brick and mortar libraries is very different. People are going there. You want to have a big range of books. But e-books, you're accessing at home. So why does it matter? I've checked books out from the Boston Public Library from here. So it doesn't really matter. Mr. Najarian said, how do you do that? When you're in Boston for Thanksgiving, as I am every year, you walk into the Boston Library and you get a library card. A lot of cities will issue library cards to non-residents. So I'm just saying that maybe there's something to be gained for us teaming up with LA as well, because it doesn't matter to me whether I'm checking out from LA or Glendale, but it certainly might matter to our residents once they're, to be able to go to their local library, get a library card that will allow them to access the LA system ebooks more easily. So I just think it's something that we should look at. That's all.
Other comments?
But just for people who don't know, you can do this on a Kindle app or an Overdrive app, which is free, and I guess our app as well. They're all free from the App Store, completely free, and when you check the books out, it's completely free. They don't always have the most recent books. I guess you have to go buy those, but if you're willing to wait a little while, there's also a website online, I can't remember what it's called, but they have classic books that are now in public domain, and they have tens of thousands of titles. So any free book that you want, you can download those and keep them. They don't expire. You can just take them. And so any book that's basically over maybe 75 years, 100 years, is in there, free for the taking. And they have pretty much anything any classic book, anything you want. Again, it's tens of thousands of titles. So that's something that's worth looking at. I think it's called the Gutenberg. Is it Gutenberg? If you Google Gutenberg, I don't know the name. Do you know the name of the website? Gutenbergproject.org, maybe? Or if you Google Gutenberg Project, but it's wonderful if you want to go back and read your Shakespeare or anything. It's going to be there, and it's there for free, and you own the book once you download it.
I've used the same site for my kids and their homework assignments and some of the reading that they have to do for school. It is terrific. Any other questions?
See none. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. What's next, please?
Next is oral communication. Discussion is limited. Time is not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of council may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. City manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report.
Mike Mohill.
Good evening, Mayor Weaver and council members. My name is Mike Mohill. Firefighters easily are the most admired public servants in the public's eye, probably outrank just about anyone except the most highly publicized war veteran. But the hero label is tossed around a little too often when the subject is firefighting. Recently, Councilman Sinyanyan did a ride-along with firefighters, and he stated that all the calls he went on that day were medical related. Not surprising, according to Fire Chief Scoggins, 85 to 88% of a firefighter's time is medical related. Council members, having a private ambulance service could save the city a significant amount of money. At the same time, we could reduce from 4 to 3 firefighters on a fire engine, so they can do so as they do in the county of Los Angeles. If some neighborhoods want 4 firefighters, then they can pay an additional fee for that service. Recently, Glendale Fire Department received over 3,200 online applications for 15 jobs. Candidates were required to obtain a written and polygraph test, credit check, obtain a Class C driver's license, submit to a background investigation, and an EMT background was preferred. Last week, when I stated at council no college degree was required, the fire chief eagerly came back stating some of the applicants had college degrees in fire and non-related fields. Council members, let's be honest. With the recession, that does not want to go away. There are tens of thousands of college-educated people with BAs and master's degree who would gladly work for the city of Glendale or any other place for less than the offering salary of $68,000 plus lifetime pension for a rookie. A rookie. Please remember, the median income in Glendale is less than $50,000 annually. Mayor Weaver, that is why being a firefighter is such a desirable job. It's the money, sir. Just ask the 3,200 applicants. I respect our firefighters even when they often abuse the disability system. It's a miracle how many firefighters discover a disabling injury exactly a year from retirement, thus getting an extra year off and protecting half their pension from taxes. But they brilliantly use their hero trappings to play special interest politics. The downing of the Twin Towers in New York City was a tragedy. Why does the city council look for the sympathy vote for the firefighters when they bring up 9/11? Knowing those New York City firefighters were in a neighborhood of 50 to over 100-story high buildings and not a suburban city like Glendale. Your continued reference to those dead firefighters is an insult to their memories and their loved ones. Being a firefighter is hazardous, but according to the Department of Labor statistics, the job is not one of the 10 most dangerous jobs. Being a commercial fisherman is the most dangerous job with a median income of about $30,000, and they don't have a union. Followed by loggers, commercial pilots, roofers, iron workers, farmers and ranchers, truckers and delivery workers, electrical power line workers, and taxi drivers. Police officers risk their lives every day when they wear their badge of courage. Why does a police officer in the city of Glendale, whose job is more dangerous and more hazardous than a firefighter, receive less money? None of this is meant to dispute that firefighters are valuable to our community. They are. Our society is packed with heroes. But let's not give over-the-top praises with excess salaries and pensions for Glendale City firefighters when most of their employment is simply medical-related services and not structural or wildfires. Council members, we need to get a grip on the unfunded salary and pensions of our city workforce. It is time to put our house in order. Over 90% of the workers in private industry have Social Security and a 401k plan as their lifetime pension. Public unions are challenging the financial viability of the communities in which they serve. Band-aid pension aid is not drastic enough. Where possible, we need to outsource jobs and have our fire, police, and all city employees utilize different retirement programs before we run out of money and have to file for bankruptcy. Thank you. My name is Mike Mohill. This may be my last 5-minute speech, ladies and gentlemen, according to Mayor Weaver. Thank you.
I just got this email. Construction on a roof of an apartment, the roof partially collapsed. An elderly woman was at home. Our department is on the scene. Appears the elderly woman is okay. The fire department's assessing that they were there. Last speaker is Don Mason.
Good evening to the City Council of Glendale and to staff. And my name is Don Mason, resident of Glendale since 1979, 34 years. I'm a retired newspaper journalist, and I'm active in the Barry Allen's Vanguardian group. And one of the roles we have is watchdogging the Glendale City Council. I'm here tonight to talk about a subject probably that the council doesn't like. It's about the extravagant cost of overtime payments going to the Glendale Fire Department. And for the record, before I give you the figures, this information I'm going to give you comes from directly from the city through the Public Records Act. And by the way, the Public Records Act I found out today, was introduced by Ronald Reagan when he was the governor of California 45 years ago. So this was a good thing for the public. Well, I'm really, I couldn't believe these figures when I saw them. This is last year, the year 2012. We had 9 high echelon firefighters given a huge amount of overtime. And I'm glad that the city council is sitting down. I'm glad the staff is sitting down. This is shocking. For the year, 9 Glendale high echelon people received $744,000, $744,729, and don't forget the 58 cents. The breakdown here is the individual breakdown in overtime goes from $77,000 to $90,000. You know, this is more than a lot of working Americans make during the year. This is outrageous, just outrageous. And it puts these 9 people, and by the way, there's 8 captains, 8 fire captains, and 1 deputy fire chief. And these huge amounts of overtime put these people in the $200,000 bracket. I don't think that's right. These people are making good money. The fire captain's base pay is $123,840. The deputy fire chief, his base pay is $174,000. And when you add this ridiculous overtime amounts, it puts him in the $200,000 bracket. You know, I'm one to believe that management people should not get overtime. They're paid good salaries. I've never heard of a corporation, their officers or the department heads getting overtime because their salary is so great. Trying to collect my thoughts here. One final note. The average overtime amount that the Glendale Fire Department personnel get a year is $30,000. That's average, $30,000. So some of the firemen, just the firefighters, will be up in the $100,000 bracket. You know, I just can't believe this figure. It's almost $750,000 going to 9 Glendale fire people for overtime. I wish somebody would explain this to me. Anyway, I wanted to bring this up because I'm concerned about it as a citizen of Glendale. And I wish that something could be done about the overtime policy. Either rescind it or rewrite it. Because I think some of these employees are taking advantage of it. Thanks very much for listening.
Mr. Cho, am I wrong? I think when we have mutual aid and we send our battalions, our captains, or whatever, out to fight fires in other areas, that's not overtime. We get reimbursed by other agencies for that cost. So those numbers are phony.
When we send those folks out to, the deputy chief is a great example. If he's leading a strike team on mutual aid on a disaster that's been designated, City of Glendale does indeed get reimbursed for that amount of time that he's out. Further, to the extent that we're talking about overtime, the way it was characterized, at least from the way I heard what was being described, it isn't as though you're sending a gift card to people just for the heck of it because you're nice folks. They actually are working the time. We have a minimum staffing policy because the national standards for fire protection and fire service dictate that almost everything we do as a fire department, as a Class 1 fire department that answers both emergency calls, which are about 85% of our calls, but also have to be ready for the disaster and the fire call and the general public assistance, oftentimes require 2 in, 2 out. So if you have a 3-man engine or 3-person engine, they may not be able to execute everything that needs to happen on that fire ground in order to save that life, which is why we operate with 4-person apparatus. To the extent that we do have OT for select public safety managers, it's because they are on a non-traditional shift. If Mr. Mason's comment was directed at any one of our or civilian public safety officers, with the exception possibly of some utility workers, managers don't receive overtime. For folks that are working a 56-hour shift or are working a 336 shift, they may be eligible because they're coming in on different times other than their shift work, as opposed to, say, Mr. Zern or Mr. Garcia or Ms. Beers or myself or Mr. Hagani. We don't receive that. So I want to make sure that folks are clear that it isn't as though all managers everywhere in the city of Glendale are eligible for overtime. It's only those folks with very specific duties, which is a very small number by the percentage of the number of employees that we have that would, in fact, be eligible. We spend about $7 million on overtime in the fire department. That's what's budgeted, or that's what actually does get spent. We need to focus on what we budget and what gets spent. But so much of that cost is really a function of what happens out on this very safe fire ground and call load that Mr. Mohill talks about, because we do carry a number of injured on duties. And so when somebody goes down in the line of duty, we have a minimum staffing that has to call somebody back, so they are going to receive that overtime. I wish it was as safe as what it was being characterized by some of our folks to go, or some of the speakers, to go from 0 to 120 miles an hour at the drop of a hat does at times, especially as we get older, as your body begins to break down, it does mean that you will get injured. And so that brings up Mr. Mohill's other favorite complaint is, why do these people get to retire at age 50? Well, because at age 50, which way would the speakers rather have it? Having these folks work till they're well past 50 years old, when their bodies are in fact breaking down, when they will be injured, when that cost will be exorbitant, or do we seek this balance that we have with respect to public safety employees? Right now, it isn't perfect. I think the council's been the first to acknowledge that, and the council's been at the forefront of the issue with respect to comp reform and pension reform. So it's nice to hear the input from a couple of these speakers, but it sounds almost as though they would be, and in fact are, applauding the efforts that you've already taken.
Mrs. Frieden.
You also can't talk about pensions without also talking about how much money the employees themselves pay into it. And increasingly, they've been paying more and more into it. So it's not as though if they get that pension, 100% of it's being paid by the taxpayers. They've paid every single year into that pension to get it back later as their own investment strategy for their retirement. And what is fire up to now? How much of their paycheck are they paying every month?
What are they at 11.5? I think they're at 11, on their way to 13 to match.
So they'll be up to 13% of their paycheck that they pay every single month towards their pension. So you have to keep that in mind and make that calculation as well. But I'm wondering if Mary Allen talked about mutual aid, because my guess is he didn't tell you about that, even though we've mentioned it to him many times, that when they go to a fire in Arizona or in Yosemite or anywhere else that they go, that overtime is also calculated into the overtime that they're being paid. You're shaking your head, but it's a fact. You don't think that's true? You think we're lying to you? That goes into the overtime calculation. Of course, it's paid by taxpayers. It is. But that's because they're going and leaving their families for 7 days, 5 days, 8 days to go and work in these very dangerous conditions. You may not think that's worth $120,000 a year. Other people may say, you know what, that's a really dangerous, difficult job. It is worth that. We can have that argument. But no doubt, safety is expensive. It's one of the most expensive parts of the city budget. But we're told over and over again by the public that safety is also their biggest concern, and they believe their top priority. So let's keep that in mind as well.
Thank you. I have no more cards.
Just a quick question.
Mr. Sinania.
Could the overtime issue be alleviated, not eliminated, but alleviated by hiring perhaps more?
That's a great question, actually, because part of this recruitment that is underway right now, where 3,000 folks did submit their applications, only about 1,200, I think, were ultimately qualified, and they'll go through the testing process, so even that number is a bit misleading. But as part of that recruitment, we are doing an overhire. So to the extent that we have folks, personnel on staff who can meet that minimum staffing when somebody may go down or someone's sick or someone's on vacation or whatever the case might be, that does eat into that overall overtime number. But even more than that, to the extent that we would seek ways to remove hours that contribute towards or leave accruals that contribute towards overtime usage, we're looking at that, have looked at that, but of course that is part of the meet and confer process, and we're in the middle of a contract. So that is something that is very much known. We're very much aware of it. Council's aware of it. And we'll continue tracking that and coming up with still better solutions. I would, maybe one other thing, because it was mentioned that perhaps we could look at some type of subscription where if folks wanted to have more firefighters in their particular district or in their neighborhood, that they could pay a surcharge for that. I think that's very dangerous thinking, because in all likelihood, the people that could afford it least are the ones that need it the most. And in Glendale, we have a number of very crowded neighborhoods where we have a good number of our calls, and to simply say, well, you know, you get to foot that bill even if you can't afford it is, I think, very dangerous and bad policy indeed, sir.
Thank you. Okay, I have no more cards.
Move we adjourn
In the memory of
Barbara Malone.
Barbara Malone. Is there a second? Stand adjourned at 7:18.